Hello, family. Welcome to Gem Talks. This is Marcel, aka Gem, and thank you for taking the time to check out my podcast. Gem Talks is all about taking everyday life issues and challenges and just looking at it from a more empowering and motivating way. So stick around, guys. Keep checking in, and let's keep talking about it. Hello, family. Welcome back to another episode of Gem Talks. Thank you for taking the time to check us out on a new episode. On today's episode, we are going to take a little deeper dive into mental health. But we're going to be talking about forgiveness and how it plays into mental health. And I have with me my beautiful guest host today, Miss Lisa Bird, licensed therapist. Lisa, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
It was so much fun on our last topic. I so enjoyed it, y'all. We took a deep dive into mental health and trauma. And Lisa is a trauma specialist, right? Mm-hmm. And so we are back to talk about it from the aspect of learning to forgive, because we know that forgiveness is a sticky thing for some people. And depending on what has happened to you, it is hard for you to forgive, right? Would you say that, Lisa?
Definitely.
So what we're going to be talking about, Lisa is going to go into how forgiving others affects you in your healing journey, right? Mm-hmm. So you have the flow. What is forgiveness? How does forgiveness work as far as it pertains to healing and overcoming trauma?
Okay, so forgiveness is a widely misunderstood topic. So I appreciate you bringing this out today. Forgiveness is really canceling a debt or getting rid of the sense that someone owes you.
That's good.
Retribution, right? So I use the phrase letting go, but I don't mean that in a flip way, right? Yeah. It's letting go of all of the negative that comes with you not forgiving them.
Yeah.
So this can be negative thoughts, negative emotions that are undesirable, and we'll talk more about unforgiveness and all the effects that it has on the body and the brain.
That's good. That is really good, because we talk about forgiveness, right? But we don't talk about the unforgiveness.
Yes.
And I think that might be even more critical and detrimental to your mental health than anything else.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Because I know for me, a lot of time people say, oh, just forgive. Well, of course, God commanded us to forgive, right? He says, if we don't forgive others, we will not be forgiven, right? And that seems simple enough, but it's not so easy to do.
No.
It's not so easy to do.
It's not.
Someone murdered your child.
Right.
Someone raped you. Right? All kinds of things happen. But what would you say? What in your practice, in your when you're working with a client that come in, and I'm sure you probably have had people that struggle with forgiving. What would you communicate to a person that is struggling to forgive? What do you tell them to help them understand the importance of forgiving?
Well, first I would say that forgiveness is two things. It's a choice and a process. So kind of like with trauma, you may not be ready to forgive. And it kind of goes on your own timeline too, right? You know, from a spiritual standpoint, that you should forgive, right? That God is calling us to forgive. But fresh after a sexual assault, for example, or something terrible happened to your child or a loved one, you may not be in the headspace to say, all right, I choose to forgive. You might, but that's pretty rare in what I see. So just recognizing, giving yourself grace, like, okay, I know that spiritually, I want to forgive. I want to make that choice. But it is a choice and it is a process. So if Marcel, for example, hits my car in the parking lot and totals it, right? She was going really fast in the parking lot. And I have to choose, number one, to forgive her. But every time I see Marcel, I think about that money that I had to spend to get a new car. I think about the bills that I could have paid if I didn't have to spend that money, right? So that thought is in the back of my mind. And one thing forgiveness is not is forgetting. All right. So we can't, the brain was created to remember. And I think that is such an important thing to delineate, right? When the brain starts not remembering, when we start to forget things, that's called a disease, right? That's called dementia. It's called, the brain was created to remember. So we can forgive and still remember. In fact, we have to forgive and still remember, okay?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
unless something goes dreadfully wrong with your brain, you're not going to forget the trauma or whatever someone did to you. And that's not a prerequisite for forgiveness.
Absolutely. And I think for me, it's a choice, but also I think of the implication that is tied to the choice, right? So, like for me, when I think of forgiving, the first thing that pops in my brain, and it's just automatic for me, if I don't forgive them, God ain't gonna forgive me, right? And I don't know about you all. I got a lot of stuff that I need forgiving for. I really do, So I'm very intentional when it comes to forgiving others. Now I agree, it's a process, right? And I think the process may start today, but it might end a year from now, right? It might end 2 weeks from now, right? It's a process because I think you have little measures of healing, right? Incremental.
Yes.
Incremental to the point where you can say, okay, I truly forgive now. It's released, it's gone. Right? And I would say maybe the degree to which you are able to forgive, how quickly you are able to forgive might be based on what the crime committed.
The severity of the crime against you, yes.
Yeah.
And how much it impacted your life.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, we're friends. So if you hit my car in the parking lot, I mean, it's not life or death, right? That's pretty simple for me to forgive you. I know you didn't do it intentionally. And I think intent is a big factor in people's ability to forgive.
Yeah.
So if someone intentionally harms you, then that goes much deeper than if it was just an accident.
Okay.
Yeah.
For sure. So as you mentioned before, the unforgiveness part of it, right? We know forgiveness is healing, right? We know the ability to forgive releases you from, in essence, bondage.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Right? Because I think your lack of ability to forgive just cause you to remain in a mental prison.
Yes.
Right? And so unforgiveness, right? How detrimental it is to your psyche, to your mental health, to your quality of life for those people who are unwilling to forgive.
So it's extremely detrimental because they hold you captive for life, right? So if you say they take up a lot of real estate in your mind.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
They take up a lot of time, a lot of thought, a lot of emotional capital. And you need that real estate for other things, for better things, to do things to make your life better, to do your job, do whatever it is you're called to do, to take care of your children, your family, your own needs. And when we choose not to forgive, we choose to keep that person and that incident as a crippling part of us for life. That is the choice we're making.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't understand that it has not just spiritual implications, it has mental health implications. Unforgiveness causes anxiety. It can lead to depression. It can lead to sleeplessness, insomnia, and it leads to a plethora of health problems.
For sure.
Because you're holding all that stuff in and it's festering like a disease. And if people really knew the true value of forgiving, they would do it so much faster.
Quickly.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you don't want your body and your mind to be eaten up with the disease of unforgiveness, because it destroys lives.
And that's good. The thing I think about when being unforgiving. So this person committed a crime against you, or they committed an offense against you, because it don't always have to be something big.
Right.
It can be something on a smaller scale, but it rubbed you the wrong way. You were offended, and you're holding on that thing for years, right? In perpetuity. You just got it going, right?
Yeah.
And that person went on with their life.
Yes, they did.
They're living their life. They're living a good life.
Right.
They don't even remember what they did to you. And every time you see them, your inside is turning over, right?
Right.
You're still having thoughts and dreams. You're still thinking about how you should address it 20 years later.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
All the time it's making you sick. And I think how you have allowed that person to hijack you.
Yes.
Right?
Exactly.
Hijack your emotions. Hijack your quality of life.
Your quality of life. Yes.
Hijack possibilities, because sometimes what I've realized is sometimes the person that you're offended at, right, they might be a good relationship,
Yeah.
but something happened that you failed to address,
Right.
right? And you missed out on an opportunity
Yes.
of having a great relationship with that person because you were not willing to address it.
Yes.
You know, so like when you are counseling and you have someone that comes in and they said, well, I'm not going to forgive. I will never. I'm sure you've heard that. I will never forgive them. What do you say to a person? I'm coming in here and I have the stuff that has happened to me. It's terrible. And I'm just in a bad headspace. And I'm like, I am never forgiving them. What do you say to a person that comes in and tells you that?
Well, I would say that forgiveness is a choice.
Again.
You do have to make that choice. You get to make that choice, rather. But I would also say if you never forgive them, you will never be free. You will never be as mentally healthy as you otherwise could be, and you will never be as physically healthy as you otherwise could be. But it's your choice.
Yeah, it is. And the thing is, so would you say, like I've met people that have had situation that happened to them from a child, right? Let's let them a child. And we're old, over 50, 60, 70 years old. And they're still reliving that thing. So would you say that that person had a problem in the area of forgiveness?
I would say sure, but they may also, probably the greater problem might be that they have unhealed trauma.
Okay.
Right? So unhealed trauma and unforgiveness go together.
Okay.
So if you haven't worked through those deep traumas, those deep wounds, then it can be very difficult to impossible for you to feel safe enough to forgive, right? Because the mindset is, if I forgive, then I'm saying that it was okay. I'm letting them off the hook. And I'm saying that they don't deserve justice or what have you, right? That is not true. But a lot of times that's our mindset about forgiveness, that we're saying, oh, well, I'm just going to let them off the hook. You're not letting them off the hook. You're letting yourself, you're taking yourself off the hook. Yeah.
That's good.
Off the depth of despair that comes with you continuing to hold on to that. But I do believe that sometimes it is not possible to forgive until you've had healing.
That's good.
I really believe that in a lot of cases.
Yeah. Yeah, because they don't know how to forgive.
You don't know
they haven't
how.
dealt with the pain. They haven't
Right.
dealt with the pain. And so if you haven't dealt with the pain, how can I get to the place of forgiveness when the pain is still so very real to me?
Right.
It's still so new. And it could be 40 years later, but you haven't dealt with
But
it.
you haven't dealt with it.
So it's still fresh.
Yes.
You remember it like yesterday.
Yes. And I think that's a big part of the challenge spiritually, right? Because we have the head knowledge. We'll say, well, I know I'm supposed to forgive as a Christian because I want God to forgive me. But it's not that cut and dried, right? It's that God also wants you to be healed from the trauma.
Absolutely.
because he doesn't want that trauma to continue to impact your life to the point where you're unable to forgive.
Wow. Yeah. So you mentioned about the person may not feel free to forgive.
Or ready.
So ready to forgive.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess the to be ready to forgive, when you are ready to forgive, that brings him freedom to you, right?
Yeah.
Because I think, again, and I say freedom because I think unforgiveness have you caged,
It does.
right?
It's
I think,
bondage.
yeah, it's true. It's true bondage. And I just wonder what would it look like if people really understood, like you said, the implication or the healing that comes through releasing an offense or releasing what has happened to you. And I think you mentioned is that, yeah, you may choose to forgive them, but you're not forgetting.
Right.
And why is it important? Because I think to myself, why it's important not to forget. What would you say is one of the main reasons why you wouldn't want to forget that? What are some of the reasons why you wouldn't want to forget?
That's a good question, right? So forgetting can sometimes make us vulnerable
That's what I was
to
thinking.
the pain again, or to,
It happening.
access.
Yes.
We don't want to necessarily give access to someone who is not safe, right?
That's true.
And so you can choose to forgive and not ever give that person access to you.
That's good.
Right?
Yeah.
So forgiveness doesn't mean we return to that old relationship. It means that I'm choosing not to let you control my life,
That is so good.
my thoughts, my emotions for the rest of my life because of what you did. But I'm not necessarily, depending on the situation, going to allow you access to me again. I'm going to be wise,
That's good.
right? If you
That's
had
good.
someone who was sexually abusive to you, you don't give them access to yourself or to your children, even though you've forgiven them. You still have to be wise.
Yeah.
Right?
I think sometimes it get twisted in the world that if I forgive you, then you should allow me to be in your life again.
Yeah.
And people equate that to, well, you didn't forgive me then.
Right.
You didn't
Exactly.
forgive me then. If I can't be back in your life and do life with you, then you didn't really forgive me. So is that true?
Forgiveness and reconciliation are two different words. They have two very different meanings.
Explain
Reconciliation means that you restore the relationship, right? So that's a two-part.
Okay.
It's two-sided. Forgiveness can be entirely one-sided. The person doesn't have to be sorry, doesn't ever have to ask for forgiveness, doesn't have to repent, and can continue going out and doing terrible things to other people. Forgiveness is one-sided because it's a choice that you make for yourself.
That is so good. Forgiveness is one-sided because it's a choice you make for yourself. That's good because I've heard people say, well, I can't forgive him because they didn't apologize to me.
Yes, that's right. Now,
So the forgiveness is based on that person acknowledging and apologizing. But how detrimental is that to that person with that type of mindset?
very, because unforgiveness is like bitterness that you choose to drink in. It's like poison that you choose to drink in, and it's only going to kill you. It's not going to kill the person you haven't forgiven.
Okay.
It's only going to harm you. The other person's going to go about their lives doing their thing, right?
Yeah.
But reconciliation is a choice that two people make. All right, you did this thing. I choose to forgive you, and I choose reconciliation. And I don't have to. That's the very important thing.
Good.
I can choose to forgive you and never choose to reconcile with you because that's my choice.
That's good.
And I have the right to be safe and feel safe and do what is best for me, my children, my family, what have you, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes if you do something so egregious, I can still forgive you because that's what's best for me. But I'm not going to allow you into my space again because that's also best for me.
That's good. That's good. And I think it is so important for us to view forgiveness in that context. Forget about the other person, right? It is for you. It is for your personal well-being. Personal well-being. It is for your growth, right? It's for
Right.
your freedom.
Yes.
It's for your joy, right? Because you cannot experience these things in its fullness if you are walking around with unforgiveness.
You cannot.
That is good, y'all. That is good. Because a lot of people are struggling with forgiveness in this society.
Yes. I mean, from the very heart of families, right?
Yeah.
You see that so often.
my God, yes.
Unforgiveness and
Oh, you just touched on something, Lisa.
tension in families.
Lisa, you just touched on something right there.
I mean, I think
because I'm
everybody has seen
telling
it in their
you.
family, right?
Oh my God, this is something that goes on in my family, and it defies reason for me. For me, it defies reason. I feel like, in some ways, God has gifted. I don't know. Maybe it's something that I desired and I pursue it and I ask God for the ability to forgive. But I am able to forgive because of the perspective in which I think about forgiveness. I am able to forgive. But I see the struggle. Like, some of my siblings, how they struggle to forgive, and they say they forgive. And like you said, forgiveness and reconciliation, and I'm glad you explained that, because that is very key. So some of the things that they have said is, well, I forgive you, but I don't have to be in a relationship with you. And for the longest time, I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah.
Because I think of it in the terms of, well, what has happened? Has it been that egregious where it needs to be permanent separation? But again, I think I was looking at it from a one-sided perspective.
Right.
Yeah. It may not have been that egregious to me. Right?
Right.
But it may be that egregious to them. And so I never looked at it. I thought of it in the sense of, well, we're all Christians. We're all believers in Christ Jesus. So how is it that we're having such a hard time releasing, forgiving, and releasing and moving on? Y'all, this episode on forgiveness was so good, and we have so much information in there, and we want you to heal, and we want you to learn to forgive, and so we have chopped it up in 2 parts. So stay tuned and coming back for part 2.